So the NBA playoffs, they're unpredictable. What can I say? We have two seeds lower than 6 that are in the conference finals right now. And let's start with the Eastern Conference. We have the number 2 seeded Boston Celtics, which took care of the NBA 76ers, of the Philadelphia 76ers last night in Game 7. Yesterday afternoon in Boston, the Boston Celtics basically destroyed the Sixers. They were up by 30 at the end of the third quarter, and they took care of business, and the Celtics moved on from the conference semifinals to the conference finals to take on the Miami Heat, the 8-seeded Miami Heat, the Miami Heat that have shocked the world so far, that nobody thought that they would get to the conference finals, let alone get past the first round of the Bucks. The Heat beat the Bucks in 5 games. They shocked the world, beat the Bucks in 5 games, and then the Heat beat the Knicks in 6 games. In both of those series, they were the underdogs. In the Bucks series, they were, I believe, +2 something to be underdogs for the series to start. And then in the Knicks series, they were underdogs in that series as well. The Knicks were favorites, I believe, like 2-1 favorites. Why I mention that is that they've seemed to count out the Heat, but they neglect to mention that the Heat have the better coach, probably the best coach in the Eastern Conference, in Erik Spoelstra, and that Heat culture is real. They haven't admitted that, but now they finally they admitted it after the Heat beat the Knicks, and the Heat had some adversity, had some injuries early in the playoffs, but now Tyler Hero may come back from his broken hand, and they've had some adversity in the playoffs. Like I said, Jimmy Butler, he rolled his ankle, but they seem to be recovering well from that, and they seem to be on a playoff run. Bam Adebayo is playing great, and let me see what did I put? Let's see on these show notes. So Jimmy Butler, these 3 players, in my opinion, have been the key, and I'll tell you why, for the Heat going forward so far. So if you're thinking about bets on them going forward, just think about these 3 players, how these 3 players are going to play. Is Bam Adebayo going to play like a 20-10 All-NBA defense type guy? Because if he is, the Heat have a good chance to win. Is Kyle Lowry going to play like a championship veteran, savvy, wily, crafty veteran that he is from the Toronto Raptors? Is he going to play like that, or is he going to play like a kind of washed up, overweight point guard? So if he plays like the crafty veteran, he's gonna help the Heat win. If he plays like Jimmy Butler, if he plays like the All-NBA player that he should be and the All-Star that he is, the Heat will have a chance to win. So it comes down to Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, and Bam, obviously shouldering the load. And then you have your role players. Like, I really believe in Max Strus because he's tall. He's got some size to him. And I believe in Max Strus and not as much Duncan Robinson, but give me Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin all day because they know how to play the role and get the most. And Spoelstra knows how to play the minutes and get the most out of that rotation pretty much. Oh, and also to get clutch minutes from Kevin Love and clutch rebounding, and just to be that presence to get that rebound so Bam Adebayo doesn't have to get all the rebounds. But the Heat will be in good shape for Boston. Yeah, they're playing without Tyler Hero, but like I said, sometimes I feel like Tyler Hero's shot selection isn't the best. Even though he has the green light to shoot, I feel like his shot selection isn't the best. So I kind of don't want Tyler Hero to come back into the rotation and mess up the rotation, because it'll kind of remind me of, if that happens, if Tyler Hero comes back to the rotation and messes up the vibe and the team chemistry, it reminded me of when the Magic played the Lakers in the finals in the odd years in the 2000s, I believe 2009, and Rafer Alston had been playing starting point guard for entire playoffs because Jameer Nelson had been injured. Well, Jameer Nelson got healthy. He came back for the finals, and he played horribly. So And in my opinion, that was one of the factors leading to what cost the Magic the championship against the Lakers. And can the Heat, this is one of the biggest questions that people are having, even Heat fans, my buddies, all that they're having is, can the Heat compete against Boston? And yeah, of course, people from South Florida, people from Miami are going to be like, hell yeah, we can compete with Boston. Like, who's Boston? Like, Boston? Like, Miami is where it's at. That's what they're going to say. But, nah, like, for real, like, Boston has a complete team. Let's look at how the Boston Celtics got to the conference finals. Let's go over that quickly. And that is, they beat Atlanta Hawks in 6 games, and they beat the Philadelphia 76ers in 7 games. And they held home court in 7 games. And the Celtics are the 2 seed. They're looking like the class of the East. Before the playoffs started, even though they weren't the 1 seed, many people were picking the Celtics to go to the NBA Finals this year because the Celtics have that feeling of that they have unfinished business. They got to the finals, they lost against Steph Curry, and now they feel like they have that. They took their lump, and in previous shows I've said teams have to learn how to lose first before they can learn how to win the NBA championship, and that's something that happened to the Boston Celtics, and many people believe that the Boston Celtics now are the favorite in the East. Yeah, there's only 2 more teams left, but I still think the Heat can get it done. If they take game 1 in Boston, anything can happen after that, just because to steal that 1 game, of course, would take home court advantage back. But to steal that 1 game would also get into the minds of Boston. I don't think Boston mentally is strong. I believe that the Heat culture will get to Boston, and we'll see what happens. But the Boston Celtics have a tall lineup. When you have Marcus Smart, who's a taller point guard, you have Jaylen Brown, then you have role players coming in like Derek White and, the name escapes me, Robert Williams III. And then you have Al Horford starting, and then you have Jason Tatum starting, who's 6'10", and Al Horford. They have a tall lineup, and I think that's going to be difficult for the Heat on the rebounding tip because, Bam and Kevin Love, yeah, they're great rebounders, but Bam is 6'8", Kevin Love is 6'10". Kevin Love isn't the rebounder that he used to be, and we need Bam to be able to get those 10, 12 rebounds to really set the tone. I just worry that the Celtics are going to own the boards on us, and then the Heat are going to be in trouble. They do have bona fide role players like Smart, Horford, White, and Malcolm Brogdon, like I said, so that's kind of tricky for the Heat to deal with, especially when the Celtics have home court. It's hard to play in TD Garden. Let's see what the Celtics can do. There's going to be the Twitterverse, the Twitter sphere, the IG sphere, Facebook sphere, everybody. There's going to be inundated, overrun, flooded with Boston fans coming out. If Boston takes an early lead in the series, Boston's going to be like, I can't wait to get back to the finals. They're going to be booking it, and they're already going to be saying, let's try to play the Lakers in the finals. Well, I can guarantee you the small contingent in South Florida is going to be rooting for the Heat to win, and I hope it's the Heat in 6. I really do think that the Heat have the capability. They have to steal one of these first 2 games. I don't think the Heat will be able to lose the first 2 in Boston, play the second 2 in Miami, win those 2, so make it 2-2, and then beat Game 5 in Boston. I don't think it's going to be doing that. And I don't think when it comes down to Game 7, I think Game 7 they will if it comes down to Game 7, Boston will have that home court, and I think Boston will be able to take it. This is the 4th time the Heat and the Celtics have met in the conference finals. The first 2 were in 2012 and 2020, where the Heat took those. Where 2012 was the LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh years, and 2020 was the bubble year where the Heat beat the Boston Celtics in the bubble to play the Lakers. And there's a possibility that we're going to have a bubble rematch where the Heat and the Lakers can play. But the funny thing is that all 4 teams from the bubble, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Heat, were the same 4 teams that are in the conference finals this year. So it's like a bubble rematch all around. The third time that the Heat and the Celtics played in the conference finals was last year, where Boston won in 7 games, and it was basically a rock fight. It was a slugfest, a 7-game series, Heat and Boston, and it was and it was basically a Jimmy Butler long 3 clanked out to lose, and Boston moved on to the NBA Finals to lose to the Golden State Warriors. Now let's move to the Western Conference Finals. It is set. It is taking place tomorrow. The first game, Game 1, is tomorrow in Denver. It is the Western Conference 1-seeded Nuggets versus the 7th seed, the surprise seed, 7-seeded Lakers of La La Land. And the Nuggets are the 1 seed, and they honestly look like the best remaining team in the NBA. They have the least amount of weaknesses, and they beat Minnesota in 5 and the Suns in 6. And yeah, you might say that those teams weren't at their best, and the Nuggets closed them out early, but, you know, good teams eat. Good teams feast. They don't play with their food. Good teams will take care of teams and not extend the series any further than it has to. The Nuggets were able to beat the Suns in 6 games and win in Phoenix, going away by 25 points. So that just shows you how strong the Nuggets are in the NBA and competing for the NBA Finals. Can Jokic, Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. with the other role players get the Nuggets to the finals? The knock on Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. and even Jamal Murray is that, you know, their defense isn't up to par, and that they're a primarily offensive team. You know, Nikola Jokic is basically a triple-double waiting to happen, but he's not necessarily the best defender. He's not fleet of foot, and he's not very agile, so he's not the best defender. But they have role players like Aaron Gordon and, like I mentioned before, Michael Porter Jr. and especially Jamal Murray. If Jamal Murray can play like he did in the bubble, and Bubble Murray, then if he can play like Bubble Murray, then the Nuggets really have a chance to beat the Lakers. But I personally think the Lakers and the Nuggets are the best matchup that we're going to see so far in the West. And I say that because you almost have the twin towers of LeBron James and Anthony Davis Jr. and versus the height of Jokic and the players of Michael Porter Jr., who's a tall player, about 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", and then you have Jamal Murray, who's a slashing guard. So you had the Lakers on purpose picked up players in free agency like Rui Hachimura and I forget the guy's name, his first name, but Vanderbilt. And they picked up these players to be role players, 1, but to 2, Rui Hachimura will guard Michael Porter Jr. Vanderbilt can guard Jamal Murray. Those players, those role players that the Lakers picked up in free agency are key, and the Lakers are on a roll right now ever since starting the season 2-10, and then with 5 weeks left in the season being 3 games out of the play-in, and then get into the play-in, win the play-in game, and then beating the 2 teams in front of them, beating Memphis and then beating the defending champs in Golden State were huge accomplishments for the Laker teams. They're not a true 7 seed where they've been having this roster all year. There really should be, like, if they had this roster through 82 games, you can bet that they would be at least a 3 seed and not a 7 seed. So, can Jokic, Murray, Porter Jr. with the other role players, get them to the finals? We shall see. Jokic, after being the MVP twice, has had disappointing shows in the playoffs, and then now this year that he's not an MVP, he's out for blood. He doesn't care about those trophies. He just wants to hold up the Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the year. The Lakers, I believe, like I mentioned, match up well against the Nuggets and vice versa. And so I expect it to be a slugfest, to go 6 or 7 games, and for the games to be close, because it's going to come down to who can play better defense. Can Anthony Davis and LeBron James and their role players go off, or can Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. and the role players for the Nuggets go off? The Lakers beat Memphis in 6 and Golden State in 6. Memphis, they didn't have John Morant for a couple games, and they weren't full strength, but they also were victim to being the victim of hubris. They were too haughty. They were too full of themselves, overconfident, and they hadn't learned how to lose yet, so the Lakers dispatched them in 6 games. Whereas Golden State just didn't have the role players and the depth to compete with, to match up with, I should say, Anthony Davis Jr. and the other Lakers players. The Laker players were just better roles, better depth. Klay Thompson had a terrible series. Draymond Green had an okay series. Steph had an okay series, but they just didn't have the role players step up. Jordan Poole had 29 points in Game 1, but then for the rest of the series, he had a combined 29 points. So that's not going to get it done for the Golden State Warriors. People are saying the dynasty is over, or that the Warriors are done. Say goodbye to the Warriors dynasty, but trust me, they're just going to try to reload with the core guys that they have. Try to get some slashing wing players, get some 3-and-D guys, get some players to replace an Iguodala who couldn't come off the bench because he was injured, to replace other players like that. That will help the Warriors reload because, the core 3, Klay, Steph, and Draymond, they're getting up in years, but they are still capable of being the core that leads a team to the finals and getting it done. They just did it last year. The Lakers look like a strong team, in my opinion, because they beat the defending champs, and they beat the number 2 seed in the Grizz. Yeah, they took advantage of having the experience over the youth, and they took advantage of that. But LeBron James is the best player in the world right now, and AD, Anthony Davis Jr., and the role players are poised to get LeBron and AD back to the finals. I believe the players that were there for the 2020 finals are LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I don't think anybody else is a holdover from those finals, not even D'Angelo Russell. And so they want to do this for LeBron and AD, and I think that the key right here that we're talking about, the major key, and it's not DJ Khaled major key, it's just a regular key. But the major key is that if Anthony Davis stays healthy and plays how he knows how to play up to his potential, if Anthony Davis Jr. plays up to his potential, the Lakers should win the series. He's basically capable on any given night of being the best player on the court, the best player, I dare say, in the world. Anthony Davis is. He's got the skills of a guard in terms of the handles of a guard, but he can shoot and he can play the traditional big man role and rack up the rebounds. He had 9-10 rebounds in the first quarter for Game 6 against the Warriors, and I was just like, this man is a harken back to the old big man, the traditional big man of the days. So if Anthony Davis plays to his potential, LeBron James and AD will be back in the NBA Finals. I hope we personally see a bubble rematch of the Lakers and the Heat, and this time the Heat should, I hope, be able to beat the Lakers and the Lakers. We shall see.